We have been working on using strategies for addition, such as grouping with base 10 blocks, expanded form, partial sums, and number lines. We've also worked on using an open number line to count up or count back for a subtraction. Today we're going to use bar models to help us decide what we need to do to solve our problem. How do I know if I should add or subtract when I'm solving a problem? Then you will apply the strategies and use the tools that we've been working on to solve the problems. Here is what I mean by bar models. You have probably used these in your class at some point, or used drawings like this when you've been adding and subtracting. Bar models help us to see what is given to us in a problem and what is missing that we have to figure out. They help us to decide if we want to add or if we need to subtract. You see here that there are two parts that when put together, they make the whole. If one of these parts is missing, then that's what we have to figure out. If the whole is missing, then that's what we need to figure out. It doesn't matter if the whole is on the top or on the bottom. It means the same thing. The two parts make the whole amount. So in our model here, you can see that 1 plus 2 makes 3. Let's take a look at this first problem. Read it to yourself and think about the questions at the bottom that we use before we start to solve a problem. Your task is not to solve the problem. Your task is to read it and try to answer those questions at the bottom. Pause the recording while you do that. So let's now look at it together. Ms. Menendez's class has 243 storybooks. Then the class gets some new storybooks. Now the class has 372 storybooks. How many new storybooks does Ms. Menendez's class get? So you might picture in your mind, here are the 343 books that we already have in our classroom, because you can think about this as being your own classroom. Somebody knocks on the door and comes in with a big box of books. We don't know how many are in that box, but we know there's some new books, and we know that once they get put on the shelf, we're going to have a total of 372 books. So you can see there's two parts to this. The books we already had, the books we got, and they will equal, when we put those two amounts together, they will equal the total number of books that are now in the classroom. So the question is, what equation or number sentence could we write that would help us to solve this problem? Pause the recording and see if you can come up with an equation or a number sentence that will help you to solve this problem. You don't have to solve the problem, just what equation might you write? So how did you think about it? Did you say to yourself, well, since we had something, 243 books, and we got some more, and I don't know how many more of those are, I'm going to add a missing piece. So my 243 books plus my missing number will equal my 372 total books. If I look at that, I might think that's a great number line problem because I'm going to be counting on. Or maybe you thought of this as a subtraction problem. Maybe you thought about the 372 books the class has after the new books were brought in. You took away what you started with before the new books were brought in, and that would tell you how many books were in that box. So this one you could also do as a number line, jumping back on your number line. So see if you can figure out how you would solve these problems. Pause the recording, and you only need to do one because this is the same problem. You decide, are you going to add up or are you going to count back? Whatever you do, show it on your recording sheet so that we can see how you solve the problem. All right, let's try this problem. Again, don't just jump in and start trying to solve a problem. You need to read it and analyze it. That means you need to answer the questions at the bottom and think about what they are, then we'll talk about it. So you don't need to solve it, just see if you can answer those questions. Pause the recording and come back when you're ready. Okay, let's think about this together. Grace has 412 pictures on her phone. Lenny has 251 pictures on his phone. How many more pictures does Lenny need to have the same number as Grace? So as we're thinking about this problem, you might have said to yourself, well, I know it's about pictures that people have on their phone. And I'm being asked to find out how many more pictures Lenny needs to have so he'll have the same number as Grace. Because I know that Grace has more. How do I know that Grace has more? Because the information tells me that. What's important is to know that Grace has 412 pictures. Lenny only has 251 pictures. So when I think about this problem, I can see Grace has 412 pictures. I can see that Lenny has less or fewer pictures than Grace. So what I'm trying to find out is how many more Lenny will have in order to have the same number of pictures as Grace. So I might be thinking about the problem in a couple of ways. What I want you to do is pause the recording, see if you can write a number sentence. You don't have to solve it, just see if you can write a number sentence that you could use, an equation that you could use to solve this problem. Come back when you think you have an answer and you're ready. So did you think about it like this? Grace has 412 pictures. If I take away the number of pictures that Lenny has, I'll know how many pictures he needs to have the same number as Grace. So you might have thought about it as a subtraction problem. If you did, you could say, I can make a number line. I can start at 412 and I can jump back 251. And where I land is the number of pictures that Lenny still needs to have the same number as Grace. Or you might have thought about it as a counting on sentence, addition problem. So you might have said, well, I know what Lenny has now, 251 pictures. I know he needs to add some more, take some more pictures on his phone so that he will have the same amount of pictures as Grace, which is 412. When I look at that, I also see a number line. I'm at 251 and I'm counting up so that I get to 412. So that might be your solution. You decide, how will you solve this problem? It's up to you, but you need to show your strategy so that we can see your work. So pause the recording, solve the problem on your recording sheet, and come back when you're ready. Here's our next problem. Read it to yourself, and then again, don't solve it, but instead analyze it. Answer the questions at the bottom so that you can figure out what's going on in this problem. Come back after you pause the recording, come back, and we'll talk about it when you're ready. All right, so let's read it together. A class has 500 tickets to sell for the fun fair. Some tickets are sold during the first week. After the first week, the class has 278 tickets left. How many tickets does the class sell during the first week? So after you read that, you should have thought to yourself, what is the problem about? Well, the problem is about a class selling tickets to a fun fair, right? You might think about a fair that you've had at your school or a festival, maybe at Halloween or maybe in the spring or winter. Maybe your school had a festival where they had games and booths and things to go and play games. So this would be the same idea. And one of the classes has to sell tickets. And we're trying to figure out our problem around how many tickets are being sold. So what is it we're trying to find out then? Well, we need to know how many tickets they sell the first week. And what's going to help us answer that question? Well, first of all, we have to remember that there were 500 tickets to sell. That's a lot of tickets. We know that some of the tickets were sold the first week, but we don't know how many. And we know that after those tickets were sold, there were 278 tickets left. So if I put the 278 tickets that were left with the tickets that were sold the first week, I'm going to have my 500 tickets. So I need to think about an equation that I might write that would help me solve this problem. So pause the recording and see if you can think of an equation that would help you solve the problem. When you're ready, come back. So let's think about what you might have done. Did you think about solving it this way? I have where the class has 500 tickets. After they sold some tickets, they had 278 left. So the class had 500 tickets. We're going to take away what they have left, what they're still holding, and that will help us to know how many they sold. Or did you think about it this way? The class has some tickets that they sold. They then had 278 more tickets to sell, so that in the end, they will have sold 500 tickets. So I have some tickets that they sold. There are these tickets that they still have to sell, 278 of them. And if they sell them all, they will have sold 500. So either one of those problems are going to help you solve it. So a subtraction problem or an addition problem. So your task will be to stop the recording, solve the problem, and show how you were thinking about it. You can use a number line. You can use whatever you want to be able to solve the problem. Think about your strategies we've been working with. I think by now you probably know what to do. So go ahead and read the problem to yourself and see if you can answer the questions. Pause the recording and come back when you're ready. Okay, so let's read this together. A store has 328 bags of peanuts and 519 bags of walnuts for sale. How many bags of peanuts and walnuts does the store have in all? Show your work. So as we think about what this problem is about, you probably said to yourself, well, this is about a store selling peanuts and walnuts. And what is it that we're trying to find out? We need to know how many bags of peanuts and walnuts does the store have to sell? And what information is important to be able to answer that question? We have to know how many peanuts and walnuts there are. So as we look at the problem, we look at those numbers in there are 328 bags of peanuts and there are 519 bags of walnuts. And our question is, how many are there altogether? You can see that when we put the peanuts next to the walnuts, we have a total amount. That's the whole. Those are two parts that make up the whole. So see if you can think of a problem and write it down on your recording sheet. What equation would you write to solve this problem? Come back when you're ready. Did you write this problem? It's kind of a straightforward problem. We're going to take the peanuts, add the walnuts, and it will give us our total. So you have lots of strategies that you've been using with addition. Pick one of your strategies and solve the problem. Show your work on your recording sheet.
All right, Miss Camilla's friends. All you have to do to turn in your work today is to send me a photo through Dojo or through a text message of the work that you did following along with these slides and with the video. Send me a picture and you are done